Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. The Polish National Prosecutor's Office has raised several key concerns about investigations carried out under the previous Law and Justice Party's rule. These include pressure on prosecutors, unjustified halts to investigations, frequent interference from superiors in investigations, and lengthy proceedings lasting 6 to 8 years, which undermine citizens' rights to a fair trial. Also, the Polish presidential election 2025 campaign has officially begun. Polish citizens will cast their votes to elect their new president on May the 18th. So far, 10 candidates have proclaimed their candidacies, 8 men and 2 women. To lay out the key aspects of these topics, I am joined by Jakub Kocjan, legal activist, a board member at Akcja Demokracja, and a regular contributor.
Good
Welcome.
Evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening. A pleasure as always, Jakub. All right, so tell us about this report. I mean, it's not finished yet, yes? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a partial report. It's the first part of the probably more complex report, which will be published later.
Before you go into the details of that report, isn't it unusual to release only a part of a report? I mean, normally, even if, it's the first version or whatever, the report is completed before it's made public. Why only release a part of it? Or why only release it after having produced only a part of it?
Because the statute of limits is the problem here. So a statute of limitations when it comes to particular offenses and even possibly crimes committed by prosecutors and maybe politicians who influenced them. So it was the reason why it was so important to publish the first part, because there is around 600 proceedings which are under the investigation now of Prosecutor's office. These are the proceedings between 2016 and 2023, so during the time when Zbigniew Ziobro was the Prosecutor General and Minister of Justice at the same time. And there was a lot of irregularities inside the prosecutor's office on daily basis. And among these 600 proceedings, around 200 of them were described in this first part of the report, which was published officially yesterday. It is more than 300 pages of particular proceedings and analysis one by one of every proceeding, both about the proceeding itself, but also about some mechanisms which were used during the Zbigniew Ziobro time in prosecutor's office. And it shows very precisely the whole system, the schemes which were used by the prosecutor's office in order to realize to achieve their political targets,
right.
political goals.
So we have to be clear. These are allegations as yet. Yes, they're not approved facts. So the court hasn't found them guilty. Is that correct?
Of course, now 35 requests to the courts are going from the side of Minister of Justice and Prosecutor General still, but apart from this part around strictly penalty charges, there is also this disciplinary area of responsibility of particular prosecutors. And also it is very important, there is 5 years according to statute of limitations. So this is the reason why these crimes and alleged crimes and offenses from 2018-2019 are especially described in this particular part of the report by the team, which the head of the team was Katarzyna Kwiatkowska, and she presented in details some of these cases. And I believe it's very important to understand the whole mechanisms, because it's not the
I'll come to the mechanisms in just a second, Jakub, but before we do that, tell us a little bit about give us a taste of what was going on that shouldn't have been going on.
So there are two main groups inside this report, and first bigger area are the proceedings which were dismissed without any formal proceeding, without any formal trying to understand what happened. It was mostly about the alleged crimes of the people connected to the United Right ruling camp at that time, and majority of these cases were either dismissed without going further than article in media or in the internet, or they were prolonged in order not to take any actions inside this particular proceeding. And the second group, and I believe it is maybe even more important, is about the proceedings which opposingly they were started without factual evidence, without enough evidence to start the proceeding or to continue it. And the method of the prosecutor's office at the time was often to start the proceeding and to prolong it, to change the place, the district where the proceeding
So
took
proceedings
place.
Against whom, typically?
Against independent judges, independent prosecutors, but also citizens, just citizens who were participated in protests against the capture of the judiciary system. And sometimes the victims of all these irregularities were really random persons. Like, for example, in the case of then Prime Minister Beata Szydło, a car accident. This proceeding is one of the most shocking examples in the report, and it is described very precisely. Sebastian Kościelnik, who was the normal guy who was driving his car and and was a participant of an accident with then Prime Minister Beata Szydło next to her home in Oświęcim city. And it is shocking because a lot of evidence were lost or destroyed. It's not clear in this particular proceeding. The witnesses were not interrogated adequately, so there is a lot of different conclusions from their interrogations, but in every aspect of this particular proceeding, the default option was that this guy is guilty, not the personnel, not the services of then Prime Minister.
Understood.
And he had a lot of legal problems because of that.
Understood. Yeah, certainly did. So you talked about mechanisms. We only got a couple of minutes left. So if you could briefly talk us through the mechanisms that we used, that you mentioned.
Yes, I believe that two most important mechanisms are firstly trying to achieve so-called chilling effect. So in order to make, for example, independent judges, independent activists, prosecutors afraid, there was a lot of proceedings without any progress in these proceedings. They changed the location of such a proceeding. Mostly, finally, they were transferred to Lublin, where there was Prosecutor Ziarkiewicz. It is the surname which is many times inside this report, because it was one of the most devoted to Zbigniew Ziobro prosecutors, and he was located in Lublin. But the whole idea of achieving such a level of uncertainty among the suspects, it was very important in prolonging for 5, 6, sometimes 7 years without any progress inside the proceeding. And the second dangerous mechanism, which is also visible in more than 10, 20 cases, I believe, in the report, is that these proceedings were allocated, the prosecutors who were assigned to these proceedings were the prosecutors who were the most fragile ones, because, for example, they were not officially advanced yet, but they were on so-called delegations. So they were working in the prosecutor's office on higher level than their their normal prosecutor's office,
Understand.
but they were very easy to demote at every possible minute, hour of this proceeding.
Understood.
So they were under very close look of the
Right.
state prosecutor's office.
So what happens now, very, very quickly, if you would, please?
Firstly, Adam Bodnar announced that there are both disciplinary and penalty proceedings against some of these prosecutors. The second thing is that there is a try to achieve to understand who was informally in charge of these proceedings, because in many cases, and that's why there are not so many surnames in part of this report, it was not these prosecutors who were formally responsible for that. And the third thing is, of course, the responsibility and taking these people accountable, and it is very important for future prosecutors' office,
Absolutely.
for which will be for every citizen, and which will be able to proceed the cases against the politician from every political option.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there, but we, of course, will be keeping a close eye on what's going on, and we hope you'll come back and share your analysis with us at that time. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you very much for invitation again.
Bye-bye. That's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Good night.